Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and as everybody was hotly anticipating, today, October 7th, 2019, was the next banned and restricted announcement for all formats. Unfortunately, Ian, I always look depressed in my profile image, Duke, which ironically is very fitting, says no changes to any formats.
Are you sure about that?
I've got a question for everybody at Wizards of the Coast that made this decision. Anybody who contributed to this at all. Have you played Magic in the last 2 weeks? Have you actually been on Arena? Have you gone to FNM? Have you played Paper? Something in the meta, something tier 1. Have you been playing high-level competitive Magic? Because my guess is no. The evidence would definitely point to no. Because if they did play, even for an hour a day on Arena, they would notice, okay, something has to be done here. The games are going on too long. There's too much control. The same decks that were winning before rotation are winning after, which is something you really don't want to happen. So I guess this is just another numbers and statistics no ban. I will say though, occasionally, this is not the norm, but occasionally when there is a no ban, they will explain why there wasn't a ban. And they usually do it to address community outrage against very specific cards, very widespread calls for banning of a certain deck or card. So they usually address it and say, while people don't like this or there's been a lot of chatter about this, our numbers support this. We say that. We think it's too early for this, or the win ratio of this isn't as high as people think it is. And remember, they have access to more numbers and statistics from Arena and MTGO than we do. Now that said, holy crap, how dumb are these people? So with them saying absolutely nothing about what went into this decision, I'm going to have to fill in the gaps based on why they have and have not banned things in the last couple years. Because they have explained bans and they've explained no bans. If I look at the top 10 decks in Standard right now, they seem to once again be focusing on just variety. Just variety, period, nothing past that. Just what did the statistics say? Do any decks have an unnatural win rate against the entire field instead of just a couple specific decks? And that's it. As long as there's variety, they don't care. Because they don't want people pinned down to like 2 decks. Because that's pretty toxic. The last couple times that they banned cards, it was because Standard was pinned down to 1 or 2 or 3 decks. And that's it. Now, the reason they don't want that to happen is because 1, mirror matches are boring. 2, not being able to beat, 2 or 3 unbeatable decks is boring and stupid. And 3, if everybody is forced to build one of those decks, all the cards in it are going to be like $20, $30, $40. If people can at least get by passably with like a 45% win rate, anticipated with a pretty good deck that's completely different than something else in the meta, then they might build that because they just like it better and they want to play with it more. But if everyone is playing like the same 2 decks, oh my gosh, the demand for the singles in it are impossible. And then it costs more to play Magic for the players, but Wizards doesn't make any more money. They actually make less money because the rest of the cards are completely stranded and worthless. So they don't want that to happen. Now, what they don't seem to be considering, which is funny because they did mention this by name in previous ban and restricted announcements, enjoyability and fun of actual gameplay. They have briefly mentioned it on occasion. If they took that into consideration right now, oh, the cardboard would have gone flying. The heads would roll. We would have probably seen 5 to 10 cards get banned, which, okay, I'd like to think that would happen, but it's like, what do you do? Just address 2 of the toxic broken decks? No, you got to take out all of them. I mean, just think if they got rid of Field of the Dead and Cavalcade, what's left? Oh yeah, all the other toxic draw control shit. Except now you can't play Cavalcade and you can't play Field of the Dead. So that leaves just a narrow amount of unbeatable, unfun, oppressive, just control shutdown prison bullshit. So remember, you either ban all of them or you ban none of them. And I think that's what went into them banning none of them. Also, the real problem, the number one problem with today's ban and restricted announcement is the timing. Who the hell scheduled it for October 7th and why? Throne of Eldraine just came out. The meta is not settled yet. It could reasonably still change. I mean, about every 2 to 3 days on Arena, there's a new popular deck that's catching on with all the net decking copycat douchebags. And then, oh, that's the hot new thing that beats the couple other decks in the meta. And then, oh, there's a new hot new thing. There's a new hot new thing. It's settling down, it's slowing down, but it hasn't stopped yet. So we don't really know where it's going to land. The roulette wheel is still spinning and that ball is bouncing around. So if you don't know where it's going to land, why rock the boat? Because we don't have a final, destination down on like how bad is this really going to get? Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Who knows? Now that said, in my opinion, I would have gotten rid of Field of the Dead and Cavalcade, or at least Chandra's Firebird. I've been calling it Chandra's Shitbird so long I don't actually remember if that's the name of it. I don't think it is. And honestly, I would have banned both of them. I know they don't usually say this deck is so bad, so toxic, we're double gutting the main engine of it. They probably would have gotten rid of 1 or 2 1-cost creatures and then said, okay, we powered it down 5%, let's wait and see, which I don't agree with. That deck has to go. Red Rush has been a problem since Amonkhet. People are so sick of this turn 4, turn 5 bullshit that they can't do anything to stop. There's no mid-range, and the only thing that beats it is mountains of control. Literally an entire deck full of control with a tiny little narrow window of like a win con. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, I'd say that the Knights deck is pretty blitzy, the one that dumps out tokens. Either the 2-color or the 3-color version. That's basically Red Rush. Then we've got actual Red Rush, the different versions of it. And then we've got like Hyper Control, draw out, run your whole deck down Jace. We've got Hyper Control, 3-color, black, white, blue, really anything. I've seen mill back end. I mean, what the actual win con isn't important. It's just a black, white, blue control engine. Just that is the deck archetype. I've seen Control-a-thon 5-color Planeswalkers, which 5-color decks should not be doable. And there's the free casting one too with that Goros or Golos or whatever the hell his name is. Yeah, 5-color decks should not be doable with 5 sets legal right after rotation. There is not supposed to be enough color fixing in Standard for that to be even vaguely possible. It should actually be a stretch to play 3-color. And remember, the 5th set that came out now, Throne of Eldraine, doesn't have color fixing dual lands. So the amount of 5-color lands and the amount of land fetching is way too high. And remember, if you don't think it's bad now, well, 1, you're wrong, it is. And 2, it's only going to get worse when the 6th, 7th, and 8th sets come out because nothing leaves Standard, but they only add cards. So they're going to add color fixing and it's going to get way worse. I think we're headed for another just entire year of play 3 colors or get the hell out of here. Right before rotation, I saw like 100+ card decks that were winning every single match with just the best of. It was just 5-color best of, 4-color, 3-color best of. It was just, here's the best Planeswalker, best removal, best that, best creature, best, removal, kill, exile, best graveyard, whatever. And the deck had no central theme whatsoever. It was just best draw, best counterspell, best everything. Swiss Army everything. And those decks were virtually unbeatable. We shouldn't see anything that even resembles that right after rotation, and we are. So the absolute most toxic cards that I would have banned right now, and I mean, if I were to just completely fix Standard to the point where it's actually fully, truly fun and enjoyable with 0 flaws, 0 toxic decks, it would probably be approaching like a dozen cards. But the couple that are on the absolute top of my list are, like I said, Cavalcade and or that stupid Chandra, Spitfire or whatever the hell it's called. The +3 triple prowess bird where they can like kill you on turn 4. Yeah, that piece of shit. 1 or both of those cards has to go. It has to. But they never do that. They do not get rid of the engine of a deck to the point where you can't play it. They would have banned Scorch Spitter, if anything. And they would have said, well, let's see what that does to it. Maybe Scorch Spitter and Spear Spewer. And actually, I would have also banned, on top of it, that ridiculous 4-cost Dwarf. I would have banned all 3 of the cards and then left the deck at that, which hopefully does leave it in an unplayable state, because Red Rush, people are so over it over the last 2 years. Super done with that shit. There's still First Strike Ambush. There's still Goblin Mentor Tribal. Okay, you can still play the stupid decks, these stupid fast red decks. You just wouldn't be able to play the really toxic unbeatable versions. So in my opinion, that deck in its entirety and 2 to 3 pieces of it should have been banned. Absolutely unequivocally, they should have done that. It's too oppressive, it's too meta shifting, and yes, you can build around it, you can beat it, but it narrows the field to such fast cards and fast strategies that nobody can play anything else except for, like I said, an entire deck full of control. And that is not a healthy place to leave the meta in, even if it looks like a high variety of various individual decks, because it's not. Then there's Agent of Treachery. Absolutely should have received a ban, either that or just the revival spells. Probably Blood for Bones for sure, because you can literally sack it and then target it with the same spell. You could basically just flicker it. It doesn't cost nearly enough. And then there's a bunch of 5-cost ones that take it out of the graveyard too. So all this self-milling into the graveyard and then the cloning, it's just get rid of Agent of Treachery. I mean, you could get rid of all the supporting cards, but those could actually go in other decks. Agent of Treachery never should have been able to target lands. So that was a mistake. And also, saying that the card costs 7 means nothing. The amount of ramp right now is out of control ridiculous. 7 mana is basically 3 mana right now. And the fact that you can steal lands is completely f***ed because you can completely steal everything your opponent has and any chance of them ever coming back. So Agent of Treachery is the problem. If you got rid of that, the deck would fall apart, except you could resurrect something about as bad that costs 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, just resurrect a Flying Demon. There you go. Nothing wrong with like an appropriately speeded, put it into the graveyard, mill myself, and then resurrect it kind of thing. Because it's a little order sensitive, it's counterspell vulnerable, and if what you're summoning doesn't have hexproof, somebody could just blow it away instantly. Now that said, the black spell where you can resurrect something out of your graveyard directly to the battlefield and it gains haste, that should have been banned as well, but that never should have been printed in the first place. That's just too likely to be a problem, and it's already a problem in the Agent of Treachery deck, which ironically most people are running Blood for Bones instead, despite it being like a worse card. Just because you can individually loop it, you don't actually need another creature. You just sack it and then bring it immediately back. And then should Yarok be banned? Yeah, I think it's too wide open. I think that would be a little premature, but he's the one who doubles ETB effects. He's one of the big problems with the Agent of Treachery deck, but with Agent of Treachery gone, well, no problem, right? Except that we've got 5 sets now and 3 more sets worth of ETBs for him to clone. Now that said, he has no protection whatsoever other than being really big. And I do think he's a little bit too good of a threat in combat with his size and death touch. But he's a 5-cost, 3-color legendary. I mean, how good could that really be? Now, if the entire rest of your deck is like control, board wipes, and all this other horse shit that Agent of Treachery runs, yeah, you got a problem. But speaking of that, the other problematic card that's in that deck and 2 other Tier 1 decks that both are complete aids, one's a mill deck and one's, like I said, just basically a 3-color control engine. It's Time Wipe. I think Time Wipe absolutely should have been banned. It's return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures. So Agent of Treachery, and then they just steal another land. I mean, you can't keep up with this card. It's impossible. It's a 5-cost, almost asymmetric board wipe. In fact, if you only have 1 creature in play, it is a fully asymmetric board wipe. And last time they printed a card like this, it either cost like 7, 8, or 9. I think 8. It's just ridiculous. You get your ETB effect again. It's already in 2 control colors, and it's just way too good. It's far, 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 far too effective. It doesn't even say exile itself, so people can go get this out of the graveyard over and over and over, and they do. I mean, I've seen decks where they cast this spell, or Planar Cleansing, or, some other board wipe every 2 to 3 turns, consistently, because they just keep grabbing them out of the graveyard, or grabbing them off the top of their deck. And then you can't do anything. You can't do anything against this stupid card or that stupid deck. And whenever you just think, well, it doesn't matter what I'm playing, I can't stop this unless I'm playing like 14 counterspells in my deck, so I guess I'm playing blue, which blue is shit right now. That should not be a feeling any player has, and that should not be a deck that anybody ever has to go up against, because you don't even get to play your deck. The top priority of the ban decisions should be, does anyone playing feel like there is a deck that simply cannot be beat because it doesn't let them play their deck at all? And the answer was yes before rotation, and the answer is still yes. I didn't think it would be quite this bad, but it's way too easy to play 3 colors, so you play Time Wipe, and then you get the black mix board wipes as well, which includes Kaya's Wrath. So instead of banning Time Wipe and Kaya's Wrath because they do serve a purpose, they could have just banned all the best color fixing, like all the 5-color universal stuff. In fact, I don't think there would be very many broken decks except for Red Rush if they would just get rid of the sheer amount of land fetch, land direct, choosing, and like double land drops that go target your library. Now, speaking of other cards that are perpetual problems, I would get rid of Drawn from Dreams. That is one of the most toxic cards I've ever seen in my life. You're letting blue, or let's be honest, blue plus 2 other colors, doesn't even matter what those other 2 colors are, could be red, could be black, could be white, it could be anything. It's probably not going to be green though. For 4 mana, you could look at the top 7 cards of library and put any 2 of them in your hand, period. You don't have to discard, there's no conditions to meet, nothing. It's just here, go hand select 2 more pieces of degenerate game ruining shit from your deck. you know that both of the cards are grabbing our board wipes, right? And then if it's early enough, then it's probably the rest of the colors they need or the rest of the ramp they need to cast things that cost above 4. So you start the game with 53 cards in your library because you drew 7. Then let's say you went first and drew 4 more cards. All 4 land drops were on time with no acceleration. There are now 49 cards left in your deck, and then you cast Drawn from Dreams. You get to look at about 15% of your library. Now remember, you're probably running 4 of every important card that you really need. And also remember that Drawn from Dreams can fetch itself in case of emergency. This card is way too good. Now, if it was in black and said lose 5 life, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But with it being in blue, that's pretty messed up because you can grab a counterspell, you can grab a board wipe, and you can grab the right colors in any color combination. Now, if this said creature, fine. It would just be green, blue, simic decks, that's it, period. Nobody would play it in anything. I'd be fine with that. But the fact that you can go get anything with no limit, no restriction, that's pretty f***ed up. So that card is far too good. It never, ever, ever should have been printed. They needed to ban it urgently. It's very possible that if they banned Drawn from Dreams, they could have held off on banning Kaya's Wrath or Time Wipe because now you can't consistently just grab it. In fact, let's say you wanted either Kaya's Wrath or Time Wipe. There's 49 cards because you cast this exactly on turn 4. The probability of you pulling one of the two is 74%. 74%. 3/4 of the time you can reliably pull a board wipe. And that's only one of the 2 cards you get to select. Your probability of pulling 2 board wipes is 32%. And actually, both of those numbers are incorrect. They're actually low because I have to add in the probability that one of them was already in your hand. So just the consistency of at least having one at that point or drawing into one is a little bit higher. Several percentage points, actually. And then when you add in, okay, individual kill, individual exile, or bounce back to hand cards, stall cards, an additional draw card, or a counterspell, you have about a 100% chance of pulling one of those. So that card has to go. That card cannot be allowed to continue in standard. So as far as Planeswalkers go, because everybody knows Planeswalkers and honestly Super Friends decks even right now are still a pain in the ass, but what are the most absolutely impossible to beat ones? The ones that took it way too far. Well, number 1 on my list, it always has been, it always will be, the Chandra that dumps out emblems and can't be countered. She has too much loyalty. She is literally impossible to stop. Literally, nothing can stop her. There is nothing you can do to stop her from being played, resolving, and immediately using her ability. There is no gap there. They can choose to hold priority. And you can't remove emblems. So I'm not kidding. There is literally nothing you can do to stop that card. What the hell were they thinking? So Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, it exists literally exclusively to encourage the person to run themselves out of cards as a win condition, allowing them to run a no-win condition deck because losing is the win condition. That card never should have been printed. Get rid of it. Tybalt, Rakish Instigator. Life Gain is the only thing that can beat that deck right now. So he's gotta go. Not everybody even plays it, but he's gotta go. I still think Sarkhan the Masterless is far too powerful of a card, so they'd have to get rid of him too. And then Nissa, who shakes the world. I mean, as suicidally stupid and careless as it is to turn your own lands into creatures, it is virtually impossible for them to cast a creature, then on top of it get another creature for free with something they already have while maintaining their lands as lands. You can't hit her, and she's going to -8 100% of the time. You're going to lose your whole army suicide swinging at her, and then the lands have vigilance. I mean, what the hell were they thinking? It's way too strong of a card. Far, far, far exceeding anything that ever should have been allowed. And then on top of it, she makes all forests tap for 2. So she's automatic retroactive ramp, which allows the player to protect her way too well, and then the lands protect her on top of it. It's going way too far. Nothing except for a direct strike to her face with a Planeswalker removal card can reasonably stop her. And if you say, no, a giant flying 6/6 trampler. Yeah, if you had one of those, you would have won the game anyway. In fact, if you have one, don't even bother swinging at her, swing for the life total. If you've got like that much 6 damage that can reliably get through, you should have already won the game, and you shouldn't worry about Nissa because she's not going to turn it around. So the only thing that would beat her is the deck losing anyway. And obviously, every version of Teferi ever printed should be banned, clearly. I don't even remember which version of the 4 different rails I wanted banned, so I'm just going to say all 4. Spell cloning is completely out of control right now, just like I said it would be, and all 4 of the rails need to f*** right off. Plus, in the book, they made him a token gay character. They retro-gayed him because he was never gay, but he is now. Oh, everybody loves a good pat yourself on the back, look how woke we are, gay retconning. Guru Cursed Huntsman, way too good of a card. If one of your wolves die, you instantly win the game, and it's a 0 ability to bring out the wolves. Does anybody see a problem with that? Because I do. He brings out self-protecting bodyguards for 0 while also having a -3 destroy creature ability, which is also self-protection. And if one wolf dies 1 time, you are instantly getting emblemed and you are going to lose the game. This card would have been perfectly reasonable if that ultimate was -8. It would have been perfectly appropriate. But when just 1 wolf out of the 2 dying triggers him to -6, that is completely ridiculous. Don't even get me started on proliferate decks. Then we've got Oko Thief of Crowns, who for some reason is 4 loyalty for 3 with 2+ abilities. That was a mistake. +2 is just have unlimited life this game. Your opponent has to do at least 40 to 50 damage to you. Great, yay, awesome. His +1 is absolutely ridiculous because it's basically removal. They're simic colors, guys. Simic is giant, like, mutant creatures. You are not getting past with a 3/3. And in a wolf deck, this is insane. In a simic deck, this is insane. In like a Gruul Splash Blue deck, this is insane. He's too good in too many decks. A lot of people are calling for this as the #1 card to be banned, which is shocking to me. Clearly, they have not seen Cavalcade decks, but I think that's just such a given. People are just like, well, that and they've already moved on. And yeah, his -5 is way too easy to trigger. You can literally just create a food token and then immediately use the food token to swap it with their best creature, and then you just win. Now, it is limit 3, so there's that, but anything with an X on it, or anything cloned, any token, I mean, it's not good enough. They should have said mana cost of 3 or less and power 3 or less. So the infinite life, the ridiculous infinite removal that's on a +, and the infinite swapping and stealing of your best creature within a very tight margin, all 3 of them are too powerful. And then the fact that he's 4 loyalty for 3 is completely unacceptable. And let's see, I touched on it before, but Golos should have been banned because free casting is inherently broken. And what do you know? It's inherently broken. It came in 2nd at the SCG Open. Or the SCG Standard Classic. I don't know what the hell the difference is. Who cares? Star City Games sucks. Something needs to be done about Simic Flash. That deck just counters everything because it plays 100% of its counter spells on your turn, and if there's nothing worth countering, then it flashes in a creature which basically has haste, and then they have their entire turn and your entire next turn to counter anything that tries to blow it up, and you're not going to beat the creatures in combat. So the ways to beat this deck are none. Nothing. Nothing beats the deck. Just kidding, running 80% of your deck as control will beat this deck, which is why that's the only other viable deck against this Red Rush and the other horse shit that's out in Standard right now. You out-control the control decks, and you out-control the creature-based decks with just board wipes and shutting them down, and just try to go as fast as possible, especially after sideboarding, or you lose. Those are your options. So I think Frilled Mystic has more than overstayed its welcome. That card needs to go straight back to hell, or Nightpack Ambusher, or both. Both of them probably in all reality need to be gotten rid of. And obviously this almost goes without saying, Fires of Invention needs to be banned. It never should have been printed. Once again, Wizards, listen up because this is some really good advice. Not having to pay the mana cost for spells, aka free casting, is inherently completely It always has been. It always will be. Stop letting people not pay for their spells. All they needed to do to make this vaguely fair was say you may cast red spells with converted mana cost less than blah, 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 whatever. They just needed to add the word red to it. Free board wipes, free counter spells, free bounce everything back to hand, free everything. You don't have to pay anything for anything. Woo! The whole, there's a limit on it. There's a limit on this. There's no limit on it. Have you seen the decks it's played in? There is no limit. There is no restriction. It's irrelevant. So I think that, yeah, pretty much everything I mentioned in this entire video needs to be banned, which what are we at? Like 20, 30 cards now? But it's true. Everybody says, well, if everything's broken, nothing's broken. It all evens out. I guess, except that the result of it is what we have right now. Any gameplay. Have you even been playing Magic? Have you seen tournaments? Have you played on Arena? This is where we're at. oh, isn't it fun and enjoyable? I love 40-turn games where they just beat me with an army of zombies eventually after every single other card being draw or a board wipe. Or ramp, I guess. That's pretty much how that works. So if you look at like the last couple tournament results and people say, well, if everything's broken, then nothing's broken because they all even out it's fair. Yes, there is a high variety of tier 1 decks, none of which anyone wants to play against because they're not fun gameplay. They're not enjoyable gameplay. The power level is too good. The stoppability of the deck is too low. And it's just stupid. Nobody wants to play against this much control. And the only other exceptions are the ultra blitz decks like the red ones, which also nobody wants to play against. Standard should be about 80 to 90% mid-range decks that do different interesting things. They're decision heavy and still luck and draw and strategy and deck building reliant. That would be the ideal standard, and in the last 5 years, it has been there once in a while. A lot of the time around Origins release. The landfall decks were pretty good. They were stoppable. They were mid-range speed because you still needed to like get lands and, spells didn't instantly end the game. It was like, well, I'm building up. I'm doing like a multi-turn thing and maybe it could stop. Maybe it doesn't. And, control wouldn't just end somebody's deck. It would back them up a little bit. It would just stall them out a couple turns. It would set them back in their strategy a little bit. And that's what control should do. Control should not just shut down the game where you're f***ed and you can't do anything. That isn't anywhere near fun, and nobody wants to play against that. If I go 20 to 30 turns against some board wipe, counter everything, blow everything up deck, and then I finally beat it on like turn 31, I still didn't have fun even though I'm winning. How completely garbage does Standard have to be where even when you're winning, you're not having fun? And remember, if you're worried about variety, that's why I said they can't just pick 1 or 2 or 3 broken decks. They have to ban all of them, which since they aren't going to ban 12 to 20 cards, the solution is to stop printing this broken shit in the first place. If a card looks way too good, don't print it. It's that simple. Because if you open up the door to lower decks, it's going to up the variety. You can't just ban 1 or 2 and then the variety shrinks and the tier 1 meta shrinks. You have to get rid of all of them by either preventing them or actually getting rid of all of them. And this is a universal law of like combinations, numbers, there's some term for this, but basically if you were to take any format, Commander, Modern, Vintage, Legacy, anything, and you banned 100% of tier 1, the tier 2 decks that are still competitive now, that now become tier 1 because they're the best decks in the world, by the laws of mathematics and the universe, that has to be a higher number. It is impossible for that to be a lower variety of decks. Cannot happen. If it were possible to assign a power number, like a power level number 1 through 100 to decks, the probability of a deck getting 90 or higher is so low that that's tier 1. Those are the best, most likely to win decks in general, all other things being equal. Yes, I know Magic's far more complicated than that. But if you were to boil it down to that, let's say 5 decks can get 90 plus. Well, if you got rid of all 5 of those decks through a ban, the next tier down, 80 through 90, just because less cards need to meet up in less ways, you stretch it out to maybe more 3 and 4 cost spells because you slow it down because you banned the ones that are too fast. And just in general, you need less cards to come together in less ways to get to a power level of 80 to 90 that by the math of it, it has to be a larger variety of decks in the lower power level. Or I should say the number has to be equal or lower, and it's less likely to be equal. So I guess it is possible for it to do nothing, but in all likelihood, the number, since it's like sort of exponential logarithmic depending upon your point of view, it's more likely to be a lot more diverse. So if they want true diversity where the singles are appropriately costed, people want a larger variety of singles, single sellers sell more and are stuck with less cards, everybody's happy because there's no mirror matches, and anybody can within reason pick a deck and be like, oh, that looks pretty powerful, and they're right, and they have a chance of winning with it. That is a perfect, fun, appropriate standard meta that's right where the game needs to be, and they are way miles away from that right now. They're at such a higher power level. And like I said, this is so bad. This is made so much worse by the fact that only 5 sets are legal. Because remember, the universal saying is it only gets worse from here. Because the next set only adds fuel to the fire. It doesn't remove anything. It doesn't solve anything. It just takes the best 10 decks in standard right now and gives them upgrade options. Red is just going to get faster, better, more first strikers, more one cost, more special abilities, more abuses of Cavalcade, better and faster direct damage, better and faster direct removal. Blue is going to get more counter spells. All three of the board wipe colors are going to get more board wipes. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because, let's say, the draw, scry, and fetch effects that let you get the cards you need. Well, it can't get worse with the release of the next set because we aren't losing any cards. So it can only either stay the same or get better. It's either going to get no help or it's going to get some help. Those are the only two options. So there is a 100% chance, I am not kidding, this is what the number is. There is a 100% chance that the worst, most abusive, obnoxious, unfun, nobody wants to play against decks in Standard right now, there is a 100% chance that they will either stay exactly the same or get worse through the Theros release, the next core set release, and IKEA or whatever. Once again, I've nicknamed it IKEA, and I'm never going to remember what it's really called. So the only remedy for these decks getting knocked off their pedestal is another deck rises to take its place, but by definition, it would have to be more powerful, more control heavy, more oppressive, more disruptive, more capable of stopping what your opponent is doing than what's in right now. That even if Standard did shake up and like 3-colored Super Friends Mill goes down in popularity, it's because something worse replaced it. So if in the next set, the current tier 1 gets knocked off its throne by something else, that something else has to, by the math and logic of it, be worse. It has to be even more abusive and terrible. So if you've been paying attention, here's the math problem for you. I've been setting up this word problem for you. What are the odds that this will get better on its own? That's correct, 0%. There is a literal 0% chance that this will get better on its own. Without a ban, it will either stay the same because those decks got no help but they're still the best in the world, or the Standard meta will get worse because even worse decks rise up to beat them, or, well, that's it. Because, like I said, you can't remove cards from Standard without a ban and without a cycle. And we just had a cycle. So if it's this bad, 5 sets into the cycle, or, well, really 1 set into the cycle, and there's 3 more to go, that's why I'm so saying they frantically need to panic and ban everything right now. They need to fix this so urgently because they've got an entire year of people quitting the game and not buying the new sets because they're fed up with this shit and can go do anything else with their time. They can play any other game. I mean, if these absolute morons at Wizards think that I or anyone else are going to come home from a hard day at work, boot up Arena, and get every creature and spell that I cast countered and blown up, that I'm going to continue giving them money and playing the game, they have lost their minds. Do they really think that I'm going to be like, wow, I've got this great new deck idea. Cool, I'm going to play Simic Cloners with a little bit of a proliferate backend. I'm going to put some Planeswalkers in. Okay, it's perfectly on ramp. The math is perfect. This is an efficient, good, proper deck in my 7 years of experience playing Magic and building decks. This is a good deck. And then I go into a game, and I get board wiped every 3rd turn. I never even touch their life total, and then they run themselves out of cards 40 turns later and then win with Jace. Do they really think that I'm going to continue to do that over and over and over, and that's somehow fun for me? Are you kidding me? Nobody except for the obsessed, mentally deranged net decking tards that play that shit are going to put up with that. And then all they do is go on Reddit and whine about mirror matches. Why is it control versus control? Too many people are playing, quote, my deck. Well, really, it's your deck that you copied off the internet and somebody else built? Shut the hell up. I cannot stand it when net deckers go on the net and complain that net deckers are ruining the game via net decking. Holy shit, you are delusional. You're the problem. It's you. You always were the problem. You're ruining Standard. Come up with a deck idea and play it. Except they can't, because if you come up with any reasonable deck idea that isn't one of the Control-a-thon shit shows or the turn 4 red garbage, they aren't going to win. It doesn't matter what deck it is, they aren't going to win. So there is, once again, 0 creativity allowed, 0 flexibility in deck building. It's just copy this deck and play a mirror match and enjoy it, which you won't. So let's see, if I've been keeping the tallies correctly, who's currently not having fun playing Magic, especially Arena? The casuals, because they have no chance in hell, because the casuals keep thinking, well, if I want to win, I need to go play the stupid net deck that somebody, put up on MTG Goldfish because it was the number 1 at the tournament, so I have to build that, and then they bring that to the Bronze League, which they're in because they're a talentless hack. So casuals aren't having fun. The players who like deck building and creativity, and they're like, this is a deck building game, I like deck building even more than playing Magic, they're out because no matter what they build, they're not going to win. Then the highly competitive elite players are pissed because they're being forced to play, the same crap. And then the absolute net deck addicted, like, I'm an elitist douchebag top tier wannabes, they're not having a good time because they get nothing but mirror matches. They only get to play against each other. So let's see, who's enjoying the product Magic the Gathering and who's enjoying playing the game? Oh yeah, nobody. Nobody, absolutely nobody. I mean, draft players, I guess, maybe. Unless I heard they haven't patched the issue that lets people cheat at drafts. Whoopsies. So yeah, this needs to be addressed. They can't just sit back and say, well, look at the variety. That only affects the pro tours and the GPs. That is all that's healthy for. Because then you can go on stream and say, well, he's playing that deck, he's playing that deck, he's playing a different deck, he's playing a different one, he's playing a different one. That's kind of interesting at a high level, top level tournament where the point is not fun. The point is, let's see who's the best. There's prize money on the line, and the only thing that's going to drive away viewers and interest is if everybody's playing the same 2 or 3 stupid decks. So they look and they're like, well, there's like 12 popular decks right now, and they're all different colors and different strategies. Interesting, cool, it's healthy, and let's not ban anything. Don't rock the boat. Because all that Wizards seems to care about is the competitive Magic scene. They don't care about anything else, it would seem. And that's kind of funny because the other 99.999% of the customers, I'm not kidding, that is the amount, who do not attend a GP or Pro Tour ever, they're the majority of the ones giving Wizards money. So they should cater to those people, and those people stop giving them money when they're not enjoying playing the game, like in the standard meta right now. So variety should be a thing that's important, but the fun of gameplay, the goal of Magic should be, whether you're winning or losing, at least it was enjoyable gameplay, not these just absolute blitz lose on turn 4, or these gimmicky combos where you lose the same way every time, or these control-a-thon things where nothing sticks onto the battlefield, you can't even play your deck, nothing happens. None of those are fun and enjoyable. They are losing millions of customers over a standard meta like this right now. They need to just make a drastic policy change at Wizards where they get rid of hand disruption, they get rid of mill, they get rid of red rush and make red do more interesting things like they tried to do with Throne of Eldraine, limit the amount of card draw and limit the amount of board wipes, and then stop with the degenerate free casting bullshit. If they just did just that, Standard would be probably playable by itself with no more bans. If they just would have prevented those cards from being printed in the first place, Standard would be playable and fun because there's a lot of fun decks, there's a lot of interesting interactions, and unless you're just playing kitchen table with your friends or with the direct challenge on Arena, the game's basically unplayable in any other form. And they are doing nothing about it. And with their current policy on how they select bans, they're going to continue to do nothing about it. I'm going to continue to complain about it, and so is everybody else who has their head screwed on straight. Anybody who says there's nothing wrong is delusional and lying to themselves. And really, at the end of the day, they're just happy that they can download a deck off the internet, completely shut down people, play some brainless control horse shit, and then, oh, look, mommy, I won 70% of the time. Wow, I'm such a great Magic player. Hooray. They don't care that it's boring. They don't care that it's repetitive. They just care about that dopamine rush from I won. Wow, look at how great I am. I won. It's the same, like, let's lie to myself about what's going on as people use wall hacks in first-person shooters and aimbots. They're like, oh, look, I won again. You're cheating. It isn't a level playing field. There's a reason you're winning, and it's not your skill, and it's not natural chance, okay? If you're running 4-color control, Jace run your library out, the reason you're winning is because that deck is completely That deck is basically impossible to beat, and you only lose to, like, the other tier 1 decks, which are the rush red shit. So yeah, anybody saying, oh no, Standard's fine. No, they're lying to themselves, they're lying to you, they're just, like I said, they're not mentally healthy people. For the rest of the reasonable people, they see what Standard is like right now, and they want it fixed immediately. I am beyond pissed that they didn't ban anything today. And the whole excuse of, well, it's just such an out-of-control shit show that let's just wait for rotation, which is what their apparent line of thinking was during the last couple weeks. We're 11 months out from a rotation. You cannot use that excuse. You gotta fix it. You can't just say, well, it's another year of shitty MTG play. I wonder if we'll lose 1 million or 2 million players this time. Maybe it'll be 3 million, who knows? Oh, well, maybe we'll get it right next time. No, just piss off the people running this net deck bullshit, ban every single deck that's in tier 1 right now, and fix it. Because then the other 95% of people who actually stick around will spend more money, invite more friends, the game will grow, and they'll be having fun and enjoying your product, like they should be. But no, they just look at the GP results and they're like, oh, okay, all right, looks good. It looks pretty even. Who cares if people are having fun? Fun isn't the point of a GP. So I would love to see anybody from Wizards come up with a counterpoint to the entire point of this video, because there isn't one. This is indefensible. Their idiotic mismanagement of the standard format is completely indefensible. Nothing they can say counteracts the entire logic of this video. I am right. The math and statistics and past examples speak for themselves. They are wrong and they need to fix this. Period. There is no other opinion on this. If somebody says, no, I enjoy an absolute control shootout where on turn 20, we're just sitting there with a row of lands and nothing in play, that's fine to me. That's just not correct. The person is lying. That's not healthy, it's not fun, and the majority of people don't like that, if not 100% of people not enjoying that. So I'd recommend you all share your feedback about this no ban decision from these idiots at Wizards so they get a fucking clue, and on November 11th, 12th, something like that, the next ban restrict announcement, when that comes around, maybe they'll actually get a clue. Until then, I'll just continue to play the absolute bare minimum on Arena, just play unranked, I don't give a shit what rank I'm in for the next 2 months. I'm just going to get some coins so that the next time the game even resembles being playable, they'll actually, I'd say, get my money, but clearly it's free coins. But they'll make me spend my wild cards, damn it. Until then, none of my decks consistently have above a 55% win rate, and that is unacceptable. If I want to win any better or faster, I have to copy the control decks that are in the meta right now, and I'm not going to do that. Unacceptable, Wizards. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.